Yes, yes, yes. What is up, General Strike Podcast family? Another weekly edition of the show, live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I'm going to try to not rant so much during the show and try to keep my blood pressure low enough because a lot of topics that get me really upset, excuse me, on today's show, unfortunately, in terms of Joe Biden and his administration and the Democratic Party as a whole and how they operate in regards to foreign policy and domestic policy. I will obviously break down, because I like to break down, as I usually do on these shows, international news. So I'm going to break down what's happening in Uganda. You have an update there that's greatly disappointing. It seems like one of those days where a lot of stuff came out, or I should say one of those weeks where a lot of news came out, and it was kind of all shitty. And it kind of a major reminder that, a reminder for most people out there, I think for a lot of us, we knew this, that it was business as usual with the American government, with the sort of neoliberal hegemonic order of the world. Regardless of if it was Trump or Biden, that was splitting hairs on the oligarchy, let's be quite honest. And I think most people knew that. Most people were quite aware of that. And yet, for some reason, we had to get reminded. Let's get into it. Obviously, I'm Matthew Hunter. Follow me below. Hit the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff, because it should be a rather intriguing episode. Let's talk about, obviously, Joe Biden and his entire failures as the president, and ones that we did know. I mean, most of us on the left knew that this was going to happen, that Joe Biden's foreign policy was no different than Donald Trump's. Why? Because the neoliberal, neoconservative foreign policy is one and the same. Okay? It always has been. The only difference between a neoliberal and neoconservative is one is far more religious when it comes to domestic policy. Things like abortion being a wedge issue. You're going to see that between a neoliberal and neoconservative. But foreign policy, when it comes to bombing countries in the global south to, one, send a message to your oppressed enemies, like Iran, and to also further gain access to oil reserves, is straight in the playbook of the neoliberal and neoconservative parties of America. There's no difference here. This isn't shocking. And we also have to think about some of the optics here. When you hear stories, I'm going to try to combine it with other stories here, about Joe Biden and them reconfiguring their military operations in Yemen. How it was portrayed was, we're pulling out of the Yemen genocide. In actuality, all it meant was some designations we're going to let go in terms of hostile engagements, and other ones we're going to continue to bomb. Okay? Same with Syria. Any sort of, or the Middle East as a whole, any sort of rhetorical device that tries to separate the Democrats from the Republicans is one that is null and void, because their material aim, their material history, what they have done is the same. There's no difference. Does one bomb a little bit more? Sure, but they both bomb brown and black people in the global south, regardless. And he did this all before raising the minimum wage, which seems to have been thrown under the bus, as comrade Eric Isaac says on social media. The Senate parliamentarian just killed $15 an hour. Her name is Elizabeth McDonough. She is not elected. She is appointed by the Senate Majority Leader. She can easily be replaced by Schumer with someone who will allow $15 hour for the minimum wage. Dems will use this as an excuse. They are lying. And if You're like, what the fuck is a Senate parliamentarian? And why haven't we heard about them before? It's because Democrats are using every procedural tool at their disposal to halt what little progress they've promised while trying to make it look like it's not their fault. And I want to remind people that the GOP removed the Senate parliamentarian in 2003. This is something that happened within most people's lifetime, that we've seen a parliamentarian object to the supermajority of whatever party is in control at the time, and they get removed from power. But the Democrats are going to act like this is a real holdup. And this is like another overall thing I'm going to get into is the lack of urgency by the Joe Biden administration and the feigned attempt at having their hands tied. Okay, they don't have their hands tied. They're actively, explicitly working to undermine the working class and undermine the American people as a whole, let alone abroad, right? I mean, Joe Biden yanked away stimulus checks from 17 million Americans. This happened yesterday. 17 million people that got stimulus checks last time aren't getting it this time. Why? Because of means testing that is outdated. Okay. Jeff Stein, I believe of the Washington Post, so that 12 million fewer adults and 5 million fewer children will receive benefits. And I think the money they're saving off of this is like a measly like $5 billion. It is something that is not an astronomical amount, especially when the overall stimulus is $1.9 trillion. You're talking about less than a percentage point. But we have to keep those PPE loans to Walmart and Target and Apple and Amazon. We have to keep giving them loans of billions of dollars. Why? I don't know, but we have to. It's just ridiculous at this point in time. Like I especially when like we get this type of report that came out. I think it came out today or is yesterday. I forget. No, it was yesterday. Late yesterday. In Stockton, they did this UBI experiment where 125 people got $500 per month for free for 2 years. I recommend reading this article if you want to check it out to start understand how it worked and all that stuff. But they saw I think it was a 15% increase in employment from this group of people. Saw improved health standards for these people. Overall, their lives were markedly improved by a measly $500 per month added to their income. Just give the people the money that they are owed. If wages had kept up with productivity from the 1970s, the minimum wage right now would be $23. $23. And we're arguing about 15. Okay? Like, it makes no sense. It's counterproductive. You know, and then as my computer freezes, hope you guys can hear me still. I'm back. No, I'm not back. I'm back now. There we go. Anyways, I recommend reading this article by David Dan, who I also recommend following. Good journalist. Someone I don't agree with all the time, but I like David Dan. I think he's a quality journalist out there. And he points out all of the executive orders Joe Biden could pass at this point in time. All of them. And he doesn't. They choose not to. The Democrats have the power to radically change the working class well-being, their health, standards of living, etc. They choose not to. Why? Because one, they're beholden to their donors, of course, their corporate donors. They're not really in it for the people, the working class. They're in it for the capitalist corporations, of course, that pay their election campaigns and eventually pay them cushy lobbyist jobs after they leave office or they don't get accepted for an administration position like Neera Tanden. Shout out to her. But the Democrats don't do that. Then we need to start being quite aware of the real enemy that we're facing is not Trump. It's not just the GOP or conservatives or white supremacists. It's not just them. They are part of it, of course. They're part of the enemy. But it is far more than just that. It's an entire capitalistic hegemonic system, an apparatus that needs to be dismantled, abolished, destroyed, along with state apparatuses that are clearly bourgeois states. Like, we need to just be honest about the actual fight. And this whole, like, bickering back and forth between Democrats and Republicans is stupid. Like, I'm so over defending Democrats. Like, even like the squad of the world, right, who explicitly say they're not socialists. Like, I'm done defending all of you. Like, I just don't. Like, when you in the squad or Bernie Sanders, when you back a policy that I support, awesome. We're on the same side. We're in a coalition with each other. But other times, no, I'm not. I don't have to be in coalition with you. The Democratic Party, like Kwame Ture said, is imperialist and capitalist to its core and racist to its core. You can't avoid that. The only real value electoralism has as a strategy is a way of organizing people. You organize people around mass events. That's about it. Where else are we at here? Let's talk about the George Floyd Police Act. I believe it's the full name of it. I forget what HR number it is. That got passed by the House. Excuse me. Today. It was passed by the House today. Obviously, no, it was yesterday. Obviously, rest in peace and rest in power to George Floyd still, of course. Condolences to his family. And it's greatly disappointing that the bill that's named in his honor is giving $750 million more to police to investigate themselves for their use of deadly force. Now, yes, does it technically ban chokeholds? Great, but New York has banned chokeholds for 30 years, and people are still getting choked to death by New York pigs. Okay, has it slightly adjusted qualified immunity? Yes, but we're still not changing the system. These are very small band-aids. Like, you guys know, I remember those like the circular band-aids. They're like super tiny. They're like for your fingers and shit, right? Like, they're super tiny ones. Like, imagine like this is like a 1,000 of those together on a giant leak in the Hoover Dam. That's what this is. Okay. We still have institutions that were started as racist, oppressive, exploitive institutions that are given and still largely have the right to use deadly force against the people, regardless of threat, guilt, whatever it may be. Until those racist institutions, ones that would round up escaping slaves and brutalize them and kill them, those institutions, which are now our modern pig departments, they need to be stripped and abolished of everything they have. And all of those resources need to be given back to the community. Okay, all that armament go back to the fucking community. Let the community arm their own militias. They do it better than you do. But again, back to neoliberalism. I mean, this is just the same old shit. You know, it's not, the Democratic Party is not, or the Republican Party, of course, is not at all of the mindset of changing systemic racism. They're the mindset that they need to appear like they're fighting systemic racism. That's all they want. Let's be quite honest. As I mentioned earlier, Neera Tanden, who was supposed to be Biden's budget chief, withdraws from her nomination as she's received massive pushback and backlash, of course, from seemingly everyone except for staunch establishment Democrats and, weirdly enough, Bernie Sanders. I don't know why, especially when she attacked him so viciously and the movement that he helped push on. But I'm happy that this warmonger, this abuser supporter nominee is no longer the nominee. She had really no qualifications for it, first off. And secondly, her record was abysmal. It was a poor man's Hillary Clinton. Like, that's just the reality. Her policy goals around Libya were directly from the Hillary Clinton playbook, and they were just like even poorer. Like, they were more poorly oriented, surprisingly. Not a big surprise. And also not really going to change much. I mean, who we're going to get next instead of her? Going to be more qualified maybe, but still have connects to like Goldman Sachs or something like that. Let's be quite honest about it.